You know what? I've seen a fair few April Fool's jokes in my time, but this has got to be one of the best ones that I have ever seen. Like, ever. And do you want to know the great part about it? It's not even funny. Welcome then everyone to the Leopard 2A5 on Middle East. Yes, this is a sort of semi-test, sort of disguised as an April Fool joke that Gaijin have started to do, and this is to test out the implementation of Rank 9 aircraft and tanks. Yes, very exciting stuff, I know. However, with these new Rank 9 battle rating tanks and aeroplanes that should be coming eventually, whenever they do get implemented, there is also a new vehicle type that is going to be present, and that of course, as you saw in the intro, is attack helicopters. And I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to see that being implemented into War Thunder. Sadly, I haven't actually got any gameplay of the helicopters themselves and me actually piloting in them because I was absolutely terrible. I'm not the greatest War Thunder player as it is. I'm playing an arcade for a reason here, because if I was playing realistic battles here, I'd probably end up just dying straight away in these tank battles, because I'm even worse in air battles, to be fair. But from my limited experience with helicopters, they do take a bit of getting used to, but the controls are fairly intuitive after a while. And they are just so much fun. They seem to be so much fun. And they're also great for mixed battles like what we're playing in now, because after a time you have to start worrying about helicopters because they work on a spawn point system very, very similar to how different tanks work within the game at the moment. That of course being another reason why I couldn't get into the helicopters and get much gameplay for you, of course. I didn't actually manage to get many spawn points because, well, I'm terrible at the game. Oh well. And maybe it's just me being used to the low tier tanks and their sort of thin armour by comparison, but these tanks are, well, tanks. They are extremely well protected, and really, unless you're hitting the ammo rack, there isn't really much chance of you actually taking these things out. As you can see there, I hit the ammo rack with that tank and the whole thing exploded. This happened to me on quite a few times as well, because I can't angle my armour properly yet, although I am learning. This test really does get me really excited for the future of War Thunder as a game in general. Like, imagine a sort of Gulf War arsenal of maps and vehicles, so we can have stuff like Apaches, Cobra, attack helicopters, as well as M1 Abrams tanks, all rolling across the deserts with oil fields going off in the background. It would kind of remind me of sort of like a more realistic and kind of more fun version of the Operation Firestorm map from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. I just think it would be so cool as we try and get this helicopter here and miss miserably. I am sort of terrible at aiming with these 50 cal machine guns that are mounted coaxially to the tanks at the moment. I think they do some damage to tanks if you hit them in like the really weak areas, such as the tracks. I think they do some sort of very minor damage there. Although, to be fair, they're meant for sort of mainly anti-aircraft, so let's say you had a helicopter coming for you then, like I had there. It's meant just to quickly take them down. I was firing behind, obviously, because for some reason they seem to have a very low velocity. Or maybe like it's just me being terrible at the game. That's highly likely because, well, as I've said before, I am useless at the game. But they are extremely useful, and they can be extremely deadly if you hit the helicopter, particularly in the engine. I found the engine seems to be particularly vulnerable to actually hit with the 50 cals. But can you imagine how cool it would be to be part of an armoured tank column rolling across the desert to capture some key objectives such as an oil field, for example, with helicopters flying overhead, fast jets like F-18s and A-10 Warthogs just flying, screaming past and putting rounds into enemy aircraft. I don't know, the possibilities are quite literally endless. You could also have some kind of alternate reality potentially, like they have with the World War II stuff in War Thunder. I think that would be potentially really, really cool as well. But as you can see, my first run is coming to an end here. I've kind of got myself pinched between two tanks here. This one fired at me from across the map, and I did manage to disable his gun breach, so he was out of action for the time being. But my engine's down. I'm trying to repair my tank here. A couple of my crew are down as well. It's going to take a long time, and of course there's artillery, and eventually I blow up in spectacular fashion. It has to be said. But yeah, that was the end of me for this round anyway. Luckily though, using editing trickery, I managed to escape that horrible, horrific explosion that killed literally all of my crew, apart from me, obviously. And I managed to get myself another tank because, hey, the German military has the same budget as the US military by the looks of things. And I began firing on another Leopard tank. Yeah, this is arcade battles, remember? So of course it's not exactly the most realistic scenario in the entire world. I do think that, obviously this is the test, so there aren't that many vehicles actually implemented in at the moment. They have one Russian tank, which is the T-90, which is the one from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 on the Russian faction, in case you didn't know what it is. And then of course you've got the Leopard here, which I'm driving. I don't really know much about this tank. I did initially think when I saw the initial gameplay on YouTube that this was the M1 Abrams, but I was obviously wrong with that. I don't know much about tanks. I'm more of an aircraft sort of person. And then they have the Russian Hind and I think the equivalent of the Apache on the German side as the attack helicopters. Now that isn't that many vehicles, but like I say, this is literally just a test, just to see if the mechanics work and everything, and I'm completely fine with them and everything. Like I say, bearing in mind that this is a test and it's literally just to make sure all the mechanics are in order and working and balanced ahead of potentially implementing them sometime in the near future. Now, this alongside ships, which are supposed to be coming soon, they say soon in Gaijin terms, they were sort of shown off sort of towards the back end of last year, and they were supposed to come out around about December, but we've heard sight nor sound of them since, so I don't know what's quite going on with them. I haven't really been keeping up with the news of War Thunder all that much. This is my secondary game compared to KSP, obviously. So naturally I don't know as much about it as I do with KSP. But I appear to know more about it than this guy, who is momentarily about to wreck himself upside down in an attack helicopter. Yeah, remember me saying that these things were hard to fly? That pretty much sums it up basically, and sums up my playtime in them as well. But yeah, I mean, the main reason I jumped into this game mode in the first place is because I thought it looked cool, and I thought I could get some cool intro cinematics, as you can see me taking down a helicopter with the 50 cals there, as you saw in the intro. I just think the whole sort of Gulf War aesthetic and sort of Operation Desert Storm is just a really cool sort of war aesthetic. It's the sort of one I've always grown up sort of knowing and thinking, obviously with it being in the news and everything while I've been growing up. And so, as a result, to actually see it sort of been played out in video games to this sort of state, I think that it's quite cool in a way, and I think that being able to make creative things such as the intro that I made for this video is actually really, really cool. Also, if anyone can name the movie that the intro music was from, then you get an internet cookie from me. Well done. But that's going to pretty much round it off for this episode, guys. I hope you did enjoy. Please let me know in the comments down below if you want to see more War Thunder in the future. Junior Horizon is also in production at the moment as we speak. But until next time, guys, this is Brad signing off. And as always, peace out.